have a time, because this is something that I haven't found in very many people yet, but I'm really interested to see if you've ever had this experience. Have you ever done a workout that was so stupid and so demanding that like you went to get under the bar and literally couldn't unrack the bar the next time?
I've got two stories of that. So
Yeah.
one of them was when I first started training with the Bulgarians. Like we lived in the house. I showed up, and this is like another good example of the whole like the myth of everything, and like what
Right.
you see isn't really true. The Bulgarian system is like, oh, he just ground everybody up, and everyone was just like, got destroyed. That's like true and not true because like that's an objectively true thing in all sports.
Right.
Like you could say American football like is way worse than the Bulgarian training system. How many dudes have permanent brain damage from American football, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
How
like
many
it's
people could
object
have a 20-year career if they
yeah,
weren't stomped every day, right?
right. So yeah, it was brutal and it was extremely hard and ground you up like physically and emotionally. Like you could take a month off and go get a job and do whatever you want, right? Like
Hmm.
it's not gonna like leave you permanently, disfigured. Um, but so I got there and this whole thing was I'm gonna do whatever they say. I'm just gonna train as hard as fucking possible. This is like the greatest coach on earth. So I just zero like backing off, no like self-preservation. It was like we're maxing out, like doing it. All the Bulgarian guys were just like, you're gonna die. There's a thing we all do that you don't know, and it's this word. They had a word for it, and it was like the idea of sort of like pretending like things are harder than they are, not doing everything you're told, secretly hiding, skipping things. And the word they had was it was called krushka. And they'd be like, you have to be krushka. Like, and I was like, what is that? And he's like, it's kind of like imagine the coach asks you to like squat 250. Maybe you squat 220 and you tell him you did 250. But then it was like more elaborate than that because it was like these guys would do like because Abujayev was old, he's in his 70s, and he'd be sitting in the garage. He sat in the same chair every time, so he had one view of the garage, the gym.
Stationary camera.
Yeah, and so well, the benefit of that is like a 76-year-old man isn't really looking at both sides of the barbell when you're squatting. So like you would look, I'd watch guys like Nikolai would put like 280 kilos on one side or what looked like 280 on one side and put 200 on the other. So it
And then just
looks
get
like
in 6 inches off
it,
center and
100%. It looks like 280, but it's actually 240. And he'd do that and he'd be like, oh, it's super hard and rack it. And then Abu Jabe like, okay, that's fine. Then you do the same thing on like a cleaning jerk. Like it looks like 200 on one side, but it's actually like 170. And be crooked and do the lift. And they would get to the point where it was like they would like talk about these other lifters in Bulgaria. And they're like, oh, Angle Popov, he was like the greatest Krushka of all time. Like he would go in the gym and he would just vanish. He wouldn't be existing and like somehow he would never get caught. It was like they talk about it like this guy was the best in the world. Like he hid behind like a telephone pole, and like you couldn't find him. But then I remember we were in the house one time and one of the lifters, Martin, my good friend, he called the house and waited for Abajev to jump up because he was going to wait for a call from his daughter. So he like ran out of the garage. Martin looks at me and he's like, come on. And he like, we load like 200 kilos on the bar. And then he waits for Abajev to come near the door, come back in the gym, and he picks up one side of the bar and he slams it down. And he steps back and stumbles back. And he's like, oh, like he just did a clean and jerk. And Abajev walks in and he's like, oh, what did you do? How much? He says, 200, but it was like a little bit hard. And he's like, oh, that's okay. That's okay. That's fine. We'll be finished. It was like, this is the kind of shit that went on all the time. So I preface that to tell you the rest of the story, which is I didn't do any of that the first few months. And I was just like, I'll do anything. Yeah. What do you want me to do? Max out? Yeah, no problem. Just I'll as much as possible. There was a day I went in the gym. I probably front squatted about 220 at the time. It was probably like my max. And I went to the gym and I was upstairs and I was so sore. My legs were so sore. I couldn't unlock my knees to go down the stairs. So I had to like waddle down the
Yeah, yeah,
stairs.
yeah. Yeah, we've been
Like,
there.
and it was like the pain was like it went from like a really, really sharp soreness to like it was just pain. It was like
Uh-huh.
I felt like I was being stabbed in the legs. And I tried to front squat 70 kilos. So I put 70 on the bar, I unracked it, and I went down and I stopped. And like it was the weirdest feeling. It was like my body was like, no, we can't go. Like there's nothing to
Yeah.
push.
Yeah,
I
no.
couldn't do it. So I dumped the bar and he just looked at me like, well, you're just a quitter, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like you suck at
Yeah.
lifting. You like you just gave up on us. I had high hopes for you, but you're a
Why can't
nobody.
you be as great as all the other guys here?
Yeah. So put 70 back up and I tried again. I make it and then 120 and like I did that. All of them felt impossible. They all felt like maximum weights. Then I got to 210 and I did 210 and it was the easiest lift I'd done. It was just like nothing. It felt like
Yeah.
effortless. And then I hit like 230.
Yeah.
And it was like the weirdest thing where you're just like, I don't understand how that was possibly the case. But yeah, it was just like unbearable. And then the other time was I when I was training at Cal Strength with Glenn. Glenn wasn't coaching me, but I was just trying to do. I wanted to do 5 sets of five with 272 or something for 600 pounds, and there was just like I did. I just did like 7 sets to failure or eight
Uh-huh.
sets to failure. I just kept missing. I would get like five, then four, then three. And I was literally just going RPE
Right.
10.1 on every single set
90
until
second grinder.
until I accumulated whatever, 30, 27 reps or something. It was just so determined to do it. And the next day I couldn't do anything. Like I couldn't even get out of bed. I was so fucked up.